Hi, everyone. We're going to get started in about 5 minutes. I just wanted to do a quick sound check. So if you can hear me, please type into the question box that you can hear me. Thank you. Okay, since it's 11:30, we'll go ahead and get started. Everyone, I'm Anna Walton. I'm a health policy associate here at the Tennessee Justice Center. I've been doing this for about a year and a half, so I'm not at all an expert, but I have a lot of experience in media and digital organizing. So I'm grateful to Gordon and Kyla for letting me share what I've learned so far. Like others at TJC, I wear a lot of hats. I work on the advocacy team and the children's team on the Insure Our Kids campaign, and basically I just do a lot of research and policy work, which is not always the most effective at moving the needle when it comes to grassroots organizing. So I've really found that the research and policy is only as effective as the PR and media work, and as well as the digital content creation that goes along with it. So for those who aren't super familiar with everything that TJC does, here's a quick overview. We have individual casework, training and technical assistance, and advocacy work, which there's a lot of overlap between those three categories. Individual casework, we have client advocates working to provide value to our clients, and that includes everything from volunteers and interns to full-time lawyers. Then training and technical assistance, all of our teams from nutrition, children's, advocacy are engaged in trainings constantly, so if you or anyone you know is interested in any kind of training, please let us know. And our advocacy work, which is the bread and butter of how you actually affect change. So I'm going to go into our topics for today. We're going to broadly cover media coverage and digital organizing. So media coverage is one of the most important and easiest things that you can do to really spread a message far. For a little effort, we will just give you a few tips so that you can work smarter and not harder when it comes to your advocacy. So here's an example of an article that just came out where Michelle was quoted, our executive director from TJC. Now that we've developed relationships with reporters, they often reach out for comments, and we also send out press statements. So we'll get into that more, but it's just an example of just, this week where we have made an impact. So first off, your local newspaper. This is actually one of the main resources that elected officials look at to see, to gauge their district and what's happening and what people are talking about. Their staffs read it, and even federal and just statewide offices, not just local officials, read the papers or get their staffs to read the papers and pull the headlines that are on the front pages and things like that. So you can find your local paper at this link that we'll send out in the follow-up email as well. And you can look on their website, or if they don't have a website, they usually have a phone number, and ask them how to submit an op-ed or a letter to the editor, which are the two main ways that you can get something published in a local newspaper. The main thing that I've found is that every newspaper is different. They have different levels of capacity, different staff members, different teams, and a different workflow. So you want to do whatever is easiest for them. So by developing personal relationships with them, and just calling and asking what's easiest for you, you're more likely to get your op-ed or LTE published. So op-eds. Op-eds are a little bit longer. They're usually from a voice of expertise, whether that's from personal experience or your job title or any kind of studies that you've done. You want to show that you know a little bit of something. You might want to put a few statistics in there, but not overwhelmingly statistics, but it's a little bit longer. You can really dig in deep on a specific issue. And they usually need it's a little bit more public. You need a headshot and a short description of who you are and your what perspective you're coming from. So here's an example of an op-ed that Michelle Johnson recently authored and was placed in the Nashville Medical News about Medicaid expansion. So then there's letters to the editor. Those are a little bit shorter, 250 words or less compared to the op-ed. And this is actually something that a lot of people look at every single day. And these are, op-eds are timely and do need to be about an issue that is in the news or that you think is relevant to the news. But letters to the editor can actually respond to articles, editorials, other op-eds, other letters to the editor, and you can kind of have this ongoing dialogue about a very specific issue. Or you can take a different approach and share, a personal anecdote, a fact, and then what the action you want to take, or your message to an elected official. And we have a letter to the editor 101 guide that I will include in the follow-up email that's a lot more thorough than this. It has sample letters and will really give you the framework to draft your own letter to the editor. It also is a good tool to show the newspaper what people are talking about. So you may submit something and it doesn't get published, but you put a worm in the editor's mind. And the thing about op-eds and LTEs is you never know what's going to be breaking news. So the news cycle is so quick that you maybe won't get published the first time or the second time or the third time. But by building the relationships and continuing to submit letters and follow up on your letter that you submitted or your op-ed that you submitted, you have a better chance of reaching the editor and then also getting it published. But also another effective part of letters to the editor is that you can have multiple people submit them on the same topic, and it really will spark the interest of the editor that so many people are talking about the same thing. And they could potentially reach out to cover that issue. Now the next is call-in radio shows. So this is talk radio, and this is popular in some geographic areas. Some it's not as popular, but if you are interested in this, or if you listen to call-in radio shows for Euronews, or they're popular in your area, this may be something you want to look into. So you really just want to do your prep because it's very quick. You only have so much time, so you want to make sure that you have clear and concise bullet points for your notes, so that you know exactly what you're going to say and that you can get to the point really quickly. So they receive calls they process calls in the order that they are received. So the earlier you call, the more likely that you will be in the queue to actually get on air. And you have to know exactly what you want to say, so you need to tell the call screener what you're going to say very quickly and succinctly. And there is a delay, usually it's about 7 seconds. So you don't need to be listening to the radio necessarily to see when the host is talking to you, but you need to be listening to your phone because you actually might be on air. So that's one thing I would warn you about. And, some of these shows can be a little antagonistic. They can be a lot of people who are on talk radio, they are there for a reason and they want to debate and they want to have a dialogue, but just really stick to your facts and know exactly what you want to say. Don't get distracted from that, and just stay calm and stay on your message that you have prepared and practiced before. Next would be earned media hits. So this is when a paper decides to write a story either quoting you, about something that you did, where you're not paying for the media, and it's not an opinion piece, but it's a piece of news that you are involved in or responsible for. So one easy way to do this is if you're having an event, you can send out a press advisory if you want to get media coverage. So think about all your local media outlets. There's local papers, there's local TV stations, even radio stations will sometimes come out and do a quick spot on a local event. And you need to tell them right off the bat the details of the event and why they should cover it. They need to read immediately in this press advisory why this matters, particularly to the local dialogue. Healthcare is a wide-ranging issue, federal, state, local, but you need to tell them why this matters to their audience, basically. And in this press advisory, you include the run of show. So that is minute-by-minute breakdowns of when things are happening. So if they have an opportunity to, say you have speakers at your event, if they have an opportunity to interview your speaker, then you need to set aside a time, 15 minutes at the beginning, 15 minutes at the end, for them to talk privately with the speaker, because that's a good hook for them to come to the event, because they know they can get not just the same information that everyone else has from the press advisory. And let them know if there's questions, just the whole play-by-play of the event, how it's going to break down, how long it's going to be. Usually press events or press conferences don't run more than 30 minutes. That's about how long a crew will be out there, in my experience, but local may be different. But basically just sharing with them a summary of what they should expect from the event, minute by minute when they should be there. You know, sometimes they're running from one event to the other, so if they see that this 15 minutes is really the meat of the event, then they can get there in time. And you want to submit this press advisory about a week ahead. Usually there's meetings, you know, assignment meetings, and they're trying to figure out who's going where and when, and there's always unforeseen circumstances. There's, you know, one time one of our events was upstaged by former Mayor Megan Barry christening a fire truck. So we had put all this time and effort into an event, and we had one media outlet come and they had to leave for the fire truck event. So you never know what's going to happen, but it's always good to just get that out there and get them thinking about it and see if they can get a staff person there. And for TV, it's a little shorter of a time period, although as much advance notice as you can give, the better. So that's 48 hours for them to possibly get a crew out, and they do their assignments in the morning. So basically, it's just following up. It's following up with them on this press advisory. You know, a lot of people don't read their emails. They're less likely to read an attachment, to put it in the body of the email, and just let them know all the details, as many details as you know. So again, just like the op-ed and the LTE, the best thing to do is connect your event to something in the news in your community, and that will make it more likely to be covered. So now we're going to move on to digital organizing. So here's a quick overview of all of the platforms. And very quickly, I wanted to say, if you have questions at any time, please type them into the question box. I'm a one-woman show today, so I'm doing all of this, but I will get to your questions at the end if you have them, and there'll be plenty of other resources in the follow-up email, as well as the recording of this and the slides. So don't worry too much about taking too many notes or remembering everything. So again, here's the social media platforms that we use here at TJC. So Facebook tends to be a bit of an older demographic, although it is the most popular social media, and it is the easiest tool for organizing because there's so many options for what you can do on Facebook. Instagram is a little bit younger. It is photo-driven. It is story-driven. You can do short videos, and it's less about actually logistics like events and things like that, but more about sharing the story of your advocacy and of your work and other people's stories. And then Twitter is a little bit higher volume of posts. The posts are shorter, and I found that is a really good resource for connecting with reporters, for getting reporters to talk about you, for getting reporters to know who you are, and following the news trends and breaking news, because most of the media outlets in Tennessee will have people consistently using their Twitter accounts to put out information that isn't necessarily written up in an article yet, so you can kind of gauge what a reporter is saying about a certain issue and follow up with that reporter either through Twitter or finding their email separately. So on Facebook, one organizing tool that we've really utilized a lot here is private Facebook groups. So you can actually, it almost seems like you're particularly with the new algorithm, it almost seems like you're shouting out into a void when you're posting on Facebook sometimes, because engagements are down overall lately. But these Facebook groups have been really, really good to communicate to people geographically, but also across interest areas, mothers of children with disabilities and stuff like that, so that you can actually get a groundswell of people that have something in common and are passionate about healthcare or some aspect of healthcare or a geographic region and organizing in that region around Medicaid expansion or what have you. So I just did a quick little overview of how to create a private group. You go to the sidebar and then you click create group, and then you have to name the group and you can add people, and that is the email that is associated with their Facebook account. You may have to do a little bit of finagling to find out how to add your friends, or just ask people to add themselves, or ask them what their email is. And then there's 3 different options for Facebook groups. So there's public groups, closed groups, which they're searchable, and they can see who is in the group, but not necessarily the post in the group, and then a secret group, which is completely private. So it's a really good way, instead of long email chains, it's a really good way to communicate and to also share events and share other people's posts for those who would think it's relevant. Now, still on Facebook, Facebook does favor videos and photos. So you really want to make sure that those multimedia elements are in your posts. For videos, they like them shorter, and they go further than any other post, even posts with photos. And then for Facebook Live, it takes a while for people to join your Facebook Live, although you can save your Facebook Live when it's done as a video on your profile. But you really want to get people engaging in real time. So you need to make sure that it's running for a decent amount of time so people can get the notifications and they can join. And you need to make sure this is, trial and error. We have had some issues with sound quality in the past, so you really need to make sure that you're close to the speaker so that you can get good sound quality on this. And again, from experience, it's really important to prop your arms on something, or to put if you are lucky enough to have some type of stand to put your phone on. It really is helpful, because 20 minutes into holding your phone steady, it's not pleasant. So those are my tips for Facebook Live. And again, for Facebook Live, it's important that you draft the post before you start the event, because when you start your Facebook Live, it will start streaming immediately, and you have to put the text in either then, or it gives you a little more time to think it through if you draft it ahead of time, and I just put it in my notes, or just copy and paste it from my email, whatever works for you, and I paste it directly into the Facebook Live before I start, and that takes out some of the hassle. And then for other Facebook posts, photos are best for the algorithm, but then people's faces, research shows that people engage more, or they stop scrolling when they see a face. So how we create our shareable images for, because you can make any kind of quote or statistic into a shareable image and put a face on it using Canva, which is just a platform where you can create images. And we have found that to be very, very useful for us. So for getting engagements on Facebook, once you have all the right elements in your post, the best ways to do that is to share Facebook posts and getting others to share. So it's kind of the less is more mentality. If you are all focusing on really upping one particular post, and a shameless plug for TJC's Facebook page, share our post if you follow us, or follow us if you don't already, and then keep sharing. And so the first hour is your best hour for posts, and the love reactions and the shares within the first hour really make a difference in how it's prioritized in someone's newsfeed. Again, we've found this through trial and error. So just shoot off a text to your friends and say, hey, go love my post and share it. And it'll really shoot it up. Right now we have 2 campaigns. Well, one's about to start, but one's ongoing right now, and it's called Thanks Tennessee. And we have people across the country in front of noticeable landmarks with signs that say Thanks Tennessee. This is one in New York. So, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that noticeable of a landmark. It can be just a highway sign. We had one from Alaska. We had one where you can see the streetcars going in New Orleans. So just think about what friends you have in other states that have expanded. We're very close to a few, so if you can think of relatives or friends that you have in these other states, we are hashtagging Thanks Tennessee on these posts. It's basically a bringing home message of we're sending our tax dollars, and they're benefiting from our tax dollars that we've sent off by expanding Medicaid in their states. Another campaign that's coming soon is called I'm Not an Activist, But, and that's going to be taking that line of look, this is, all this political mess, all this ideology, it's not common sense. The facts are that we're sending our money away we've lost jobs, we've lost hospitals. We could really benefit from bringing this money back, from covering more people. We would be healthier, we would be stronger economically, and this just makes sense. I'm not an activist. You know, I've never gone to a rally, although I've been to many rallies, but this is trying to be a broad appeal message of, come on, guys, like, it's time for this to happen. So look forward to that on our Facebook page. Okay, the next platform is Instagram. So Instagram is great for sharing photos and short videos and for telling stories. I don't know if you're familiar with the Humans of New York Instagram, but if you want to look at that, that is just some beautiful photography and storytelling that that has gone a long way on that platform. So you can actually, so Instagram is owned by Facebook, and you can link your Instagram and Facebook so that when you post on Instagram, it posts on Facebook, and I believe vice versa as well. It is not a platform to be saturated in the, I believe you can post a little bit more on Facebook and Twitter than you can post on Instagram, and you can't post links in your posts. So there's no hyperlinks or anything like that. So it may not be the best for sharing a report, for example. It's more about the photos and the videos and sharing people's stories. But there is Instagram Stories, which is a new feature that I really, really like. And you can share swipe up links on there. So if you did want someone to click over to an article that you were talking about in your office, or to your website or something like that, then that could be a good way to do it. Those do expire, so you can save them to your highlights on your profile, and there's ways that you can change the topics and create little categories for your Instagram stories that you posted. And now Twitter, which is personally my favorite platform. So I find this is really good for live tweeting events. And as you remember in the earned media, we talked about the press advisory. And the press advisory, it's good to have a short summary of all the speakers and a quick overview of what they're going to say. But a lot of the times, speakers will prepare remarks ahead of time, or we will give them talking points to kind of base their remarks off of. So using that, you can kind of create a draft ahead of time about what they're going to say. They can send you their remarks, and you will just open up the draft in your app and add the photo that you take at the event, and that really takes a lot of time off. The shorter the better with Twitter, and again, multimedia, photo and video if possible. It's okay if it's all text though. And hashtags, they can trend. So if you find a day, so for example, there's always children's health conversations on Wednesdays, and they're called Wellness Wednesday, hashtag Wellness WED, W-E-D. And so that's a really popular one, and I know that if I tweet in that time when they have those Twitter chats, or even just any time on Wednesday, that it will receive more traffic than on an average day with no hashtag. So if you just kind of have to see what's trending that day, and tagging accounts if they're relevant. So if you're tweeting a fact from Kaiser Family Foundation, tag Kaiser Family Foundation and do a hashtag, because if they see that and retweet you, then you can potentially get a lot more engagement than you would if you were just posting something to your 1,000 followers or less. And the common thread through all of this, from every single type of media coverage to every single type of digital organizing, is telling stories. Stories are the most compelling content for digital organizing. And as more of a policy wonk and having studied health policy, you know, that kind of breaks my heart in a way, because I love numbers and I think they are influential, but at the same time, numbers aren't changing people's minds and not winning people's hearts. So stories are really what brings the data to life, and they are the bread and butter of all of this advocacy work. So like I said, op-eds, you can tell a story, letters to the editor, tell a story, in all your social media accounts, and think about the groups and organizations that can help you amplify your message. So now on to bring it home and tying this all into our current advocacy campaign. As we said in the last webinar, healthcare is a top voter concern, which works out very well for us. Here's an example of the media coverage that we got from a press conference, and we're lucky that it's in the news. You know, this whole last year, healthcare has been a huge issue, but there's ways that you can tie that into your community. If you're in a rural community, if there's a hospital that is suffering, if you have a high rate of opioid addiction in your county or your district, there are ways that you can, that it's regularly in the news. It's not necessarily always, reporters don't always make the connection to Medicaid expansion. So who's writing about issues in your community like this? Who's writing about hospitals? Who's writing about economic development? Who is writing about the threads that you can tie into Medicaid expansion? Call those reporters, send them op-eds, send them LTEs, send them press advisories, send them press statements. So say something happens in the news, like our poll that came out, the Mason-Dixon poll. You can write a letter to the editor saying, hey, did you see this Mason-Dixon poll? This would be really great for Hamilton County. So you can tie in even broader statewide issues or new polling from Vanderbilt or UT or whatever comes out into your local community. And again, here's the bring it home talking point. The slogan is dollars, jobs, healthcare. So there's three big buckets that you can message around, and tying that back into local issues is really important. And here are the jobs and the healthcare. So you can actually understand like the different messaging categories: coverage, infrastructure, hospital closures, addiction services, and think about how that ties into your community. So we've got some upcoming events. On June 28th, we are hosting a forum in Nashville. It will be at the First Amendment Center, which is also known as the John Siegenthaler Center at Vanderbilt. It's where we had the public forum last summer. If you're familiar with that, I think it was in June. And we will have an expert panel there with national experts to talk about how other states have benefited from Medicaid expansion, how it works there, and how that came about, and how it's helping them. And that'll be 6:30 to 8 p.m. Central Time. And we also have a Monday night call, the third Monday of each month, where people from across the state, we share information that what we've been working on, everything that we can share, and then people across the state also share their opinions and information. So please join that call. I will send out the sign-up information in the follow-up email and our email listserv with timely updates, our Facebook page, and our Twitter page if you want to see some examples of the content that we work on here to bring the policy to the people. Okay, that was a little shorter than I anticipated, but that leaves plenty of time for questions. So please type your questions into the questions box if you have them. And I will add one more thing. If you do see yourself using social media a lot and it's taking a lot of your time, and you don't think it's really, you know, an effective use of so much time creating all this content, there are scheduling tools. There are so many resources to help you with getting better engagement, and you can, one I use all the time is TweetDeck, so you can schedule your tweets out. Facebook has a lot of that stuff already built in, but TweetDeck has been really helpful for me in scheduling my tweets. Okay, well, yes, I will forward the presentation. I'll send an email in the next few days with all of the links, with all of the resources that I talked about. And we are also here to help with anyone who would like help drafting an op-ed, would like some feedback, would like help placing it. Same with a letter to the editor. If you want anyone to even look over press advisories for events, I'm always here to help. All right, I think that's it. Thank you.